ready for another edition of Live from the Heartland, also known as Heartland at Home during these pandemic times. This is number 67 since we've been forced to do it from home. And we have a good show for you all today. We've got two old friends going to come on. We're going to have, joining all the friends, neighbors, and people around the world who are listening in, we're going to have Dan O'Brien, bring back the Buffalo man, talking to us about South Dakota and what's going on his Buffalo ranch. And we're going to have Michael McCarty, a longtime friend and one hell of a storyteller. So get ready to stick around for about an hour. You're going to enjoy. Good morning to you, Katie Hogan. Anything good you want to share?
Good morning, Michael. Well, I was hard up for something good, and people will notice that we're back with our masks to let folks know that when we're outside these days, we're putting masks on again, thanks to not enough vaccinations happening, even here where it has happened. We'll deal with that later, but I did want to say one good thing is the good read of Yes magazine, Yes with an exclamation point. Their fall issue that's out right now is called Enough for Everyone, which is something I've been harping on a long time. And there's the subtitle is Right Sizing Our Living Standards and Learning to Share. So I'm basically encouraging you to find Yes magazine. I get it online, but I also buy it when I go to Chicago Main newsstand because I still like magazines in my hand. What about you? You got something good going on, Michael?
I got a couple of good things going on. This week was my first week back at DePaul with students in class. There were 29 of them. We had a good time. Everyone was masked up as required. And once my class was over, I headed up to the Skokie Hospital. And some of you have been watching regularly know that I had a rotator cuff injury all sewed up, and I've been in a sling for 6 weeks, and now I'm out of it. And I'm looking forward to starting 8 weeks of rehab. So I'll be going to work my arms. And let's, how about a little news, Katie? You got anything about what's going on in South America?
One thing you mentioned, it was, I think it's actually our 68th Zoom show, not 67.
What did I say, 66?
You said 67. I'm not sure why, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. No one's counting but us. What I was a little upset about reading about Bolsonaro in Brazil. He continues to really suck for Brazil. He's getting his supporters in the streets demanding paper ballots for next year's election, which he's claiming with little or no evidence the electronic voting is unreliable. Where have we heard that before? From what other crazy person have we heard that before?
Well, he's clearly trying to set up a coup. I mean, he's going after the Supreme Court. It's bad. It's like it reminds us of Trump.
It's seriously bad, and it's worse than Trump because the people in Brazil don't have as many options. What about some environmental news? Do we have any news?
I'm going to tell you a little good news as well as bad. In the Illinois House, they just passed a resolution, the Climate and Environmental Jobs Act. It still needs to pass the Senate before going to the governor's desk. So you should know who your senator is in Illinois, and it's time to call your state senator. On the bad news front, the ramifications and the aftermath of Hurricane Ida have left oil spills in the Gulf off of Louisiana, and a lot of deaths and destruction up the East Coast. It's a time for paying closer attention. It's really the wake-up call is upon us.
Oh, and Governor Abbott in Texas, screw you. Anything else on voting from you, Michael?
Things are looking better for Governor Newsom holding on to the governor's seat out in California, but people should not take anything for granted. So call all your friends, email them, text them, however you do it in California, and encourage them to get out and vote. We've got a few more days to do it. The final day is September 14th, and we certainly don't need this distraction.
Oh, and Mexico Supreme Court, nice work. Good going.
What happened? Tell everybody.
They refused, they allowed for women to continue to have the right to make choices for their body, in contrast to what the state of Texas did in the same.
Right. It's not in every state, but they blocked the attempts to prohibit abortion in certain states.
Right. Entrenched vaccine inequality is the basis that's forcing some to question the smartness of having the upcoming environmental enclave, the UN sponsored enclave summit that was scheduled in Scotland. They're saying that because of the inequality of the vaccine everywhere else in the world, organizers hadn't done enough to ensure that participation by people from those areas could happen. And they're right. And it's a significant thing. The COVID and the climate change stuff happening both at the same time is an interesting thing to watch. What do you got from, I think?
Well, in Florida,
this
Governor DeSantis is still playing to the right-wing Republican base, thinking he's going to be the nominee for president. But his ongoing attempts to mess with people's protecting themselves was dealt, he got hit hard on by a Florida judge who ruled against his administration for a second time over school mask mandates, allowing school boards to require the students to wear face coverings. And the specifics were a Leon County Circuit judge named John Cooper sided with parents who said an executive order from DeSantis oversteps the state's authority in restricting school districts from requiring.
Say that 10 times fast.
Well, that'd be hard.
But that's another example. I mean, there you are in Florida, one of the states that is going to be most badly affected and already is badly affected by climate change awfulness. But while simultaneously you've got political leadership that is absolutely lacking in leadership, putting people in danger. The death toll and the hospitalizations in Florida are through the roof. This guy should be completely pulled out of office. He's dangerous to their people.
Katie, in memoriam, this week we're remembering Ed Asner, a great actor and an activist guy who was formerly also the president of my union, the Screen Actors Guild. And you have an interesting story about an encounter that took place a number of years ago.
Yeah, in the mid 80s, there was always a May Day event called the Eugene Debs Thomas, what's the first name of the Thomas guy?
Norman Thomas
dinner. Eugene Debs, Norman Thomas dinner for all the commies of Chicago.
Ooh, you're getting out there.
Well, and then usually because it was followed the same day by the Salcedo Dance Party, which was also a May Day event. And I had in the late 80s, I was more in demand. Let's just say that. And I had my accompaniment for that dinner was none other than the beautiful Congressman Lane Evans, rest his soul, and also Ed Asner. The two of them were getting awards for their activism that night at the dinner. And I slipped a little note after everything was over and people were filing out. A lot of people surrounded Ed Asner and talking to him, getting his autograph, et cetera. And I slipped him a note asking him if he wanted us to take him to the Salcedo Dance Party, the annual May Day,
the May Day blast
party. And I just left it there, and I'm leaving the room, and I hear his voice bellow to me at the door. Well, are you gonna give me a ride or what? and that was Asner saying that, and I said, sure. At which point, our good friend, God rest her soul, Nori Davis, God love her, turned to her enamorado, her man, and said, I'm going with Katie. So, but poor Ed Asner didn't know what he was in for when he climbed into the back seat of my car with all the magazines and junk that we all.
I think that was my car, to be honest. It was a Dodge Dart I got from my mom.
Okay,
Anyhow,
whatever. No one's here to actually argue that one out, Michael. But anyway, I did like the reaction of our friends at Southside Press who were on the door collecting money when I walked in with a congressman on one arm and a movie star on the other. And they're looking at me like, Katie, really? That's a nice night.
The Adventures of Katie Hogan.
All right, you are listening to Live from the Heartland, WOUW 88.7 FM. Stay tuned.
Oh, Gene Autry, what a Buffalo roam. Well, Dan, it's great to see you again, even if it's via Zoom. Let me share with our audience how we came to know each other. My wife, Paige, gave me a book that you wrote called
Buffalo for the Brokenhearted.
Buffalo on the Broken Heart, and it was a story about you reintroducing buffalo to the Broken Heart Ranch out in South Dakota. And in the book, you basically made a distinction between feedlot buffalo raised like cattle and buffalo that were raised more naturally, as you were doing. And we were already selling buffalo at the Heartland Cafe, but I wrote to you and said, I think I don't know about the buffalo we're getting, what the quality is. It was out of Mobridge, turned out to be okay. But then you invited me out. And while I was there, while you were in a meeting, the buffalo got loose, 180 head, and they were running loose. And we had the best day of my life. I'm hanging out the window yelling, yippee-ki-yay-yo, and shooting pictures. And we had an airplane. We had an ATV, we had a couple of pickup trucks, and we rounded up 179 of the buffalo. One had fallen, and we had to drag it to a place where animals, etc., would take it away. So how are you this morning?
I'm pretty good, and things are very similar to when you were out here, but of course, like everything, they've changed too. So we're quite a lot larger, and we've, our business is really from the grass that we raise and try to do a good job of right up to your plate. So we have control of those buffalo all the way and try to give people the very best food that's possible.
Dan, share with the audience a little bit about the wonder of the buffalo, be it their ability to trample the earth and bring back the prairie, facing the storm rather than turning their back to it. Anything you'd like to share about this wonderful animal and maybe the distinction or the use of bison and buffalo?
Well, first of all, bison and buffalo, they're really bison scientifically, but our neighbors call them buffalo, and our neighbors are the Lakota people, Indians, but they're also North Americans. So they call them buffalo, so we call them buffalo. And they have anybody that has any science at all that showed up in the 8th grade knows that ecosystems are everything depends on everything else. And this ecosystem of the Great Plains, the grasslands, which is really the heart of America, it's the character of America, it's very important, was shaped by the buffalo. And when we say buffalo, we're talking about tens of millions of buffalo, and of course now, and they were all, of course, free roaming, and now there's quite a bit less. I think the last I heard was probably 1 million, and they've come back from 400, which we had in the turn of the century. So it's kind of a success story from an environmental standpoint, but it's not perfect. And the reason it's not perfect is that as I said before, the ecosystem, they all had to work together. So now, and buffaloes survived for 150 million years on nothing but grass, without any humans. And for some reason, we thought we could do it better. And so since we were tearing up, Iowa and Minnesota and Illinois, planting corn, we might as well feed that corn to buffalo, which was a terrible mistake because the grasslands need that buffalo. They evolved with that kind of massaging, the feet, the hooves, the movement, and with cattle, there's no movement, and nothing's as healthy as it used to be.
I loved reading that book and learning all of that you told us about that you taught us about the buffalo, by writing that book. And you are a prolific writer, but we're going to ask just one more, well, maybe not just one more, before we get to all your writing. One of the things that's the environment and the wildfires and the drought, how is that affecting you right now in your ranch work, first of all? And then I'll ask you a follow-up question.
Katie, I can't overemphasize the danger of climate change to my lifestyle and the center of this country. It can't be done. I can't tell you how much that bothers me. We're suffering through a very, very dry year, which the Great Plains is used to dry years. We get them once in a while, but the frequency is really increased. And if they increase much more, there's going to be a whole lot of ranches for sale, and they're not going to be worth anything because they're going to be overgrazed. So, what we're trying to do is really, we have a company that we raise buffalo, and then we have another company that slaughters buffalo, cuts it up, packages it, and sends it all over the country. Wild Idea Buffalo Company. But that whole program is dependent on a healthy ecosystem. And if that's threatened, I'm threatened from every direction, and I'm starting to feel that. And a lot of other people are starting to feel it. So
that was the other question I had was when I watched the videos on your website, and you all talk about how your method of ranching, which is basically to let the buffalo roam and do their thing. One of the claims you're able to make is a better carbon sequestration as a result of your practices. And I'm wondering, because I look at this on farmers who are trying to do the right thing as well, how one farmer or rancher doing the right thing can deal with or overcome neighbors who are still stuck in old polluting habits.
Well, that's the dream I wake up to screaming every night.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to bring that to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there's nothing we can do. And we're experiencing that in a lot of things, in politics, et cetera, et cetera. If people are going to dig their feet in and do everything their way, and they're not going to, play as a team player, then we're pretty well screwed. And so we got to figure out how to do that. And that's one of the things that we try to do here at Wild Idea. We try to educate people as to what it takes to be truly, truly natural.
Yeah.
And how, we evolved with an ability to process buffalo meat, wild meat, and to thrive on it. And lately in the last 50, 60 years, we're surviving, but we're not thriving.
Yeah.
And we can still do that.
Dan, I'm going to switch to your writing. I'm a big fan of your writing. In fact, you're my favorite author. And I've read a lot of your stuff. I've read about falcons. I've read about buffalo. I've read your novels, Spirit of the Hills, The Contract Surgeon, The Indian Agent, and Stolen Horses. And I'm wondering if you would share with us a little bit about your writing and what we might expect coming out and when.
Well, that's
Something like a little pressure.
Yeah. As soon as I get this rewritten, you'll have a chance. So, I sit here every day and try to go through it. And you'd think that with the COVID deal, and we're pretty careful about COVID out here. And, I'm quite a ways from town anyway, but with COVID, I just didn't go to town. And you'd think that a guy could write like hell if you didn't have anything else to do, but you know what? You can't. You gotta be under pressure for some reason. And so I'm putting myself under pressure, and I'm going to finish this damn thing, good draft of it by the first of the year. So
what's it about, Dan?
Well, it's it's about the, oh, we have sex and violence and all that kind of stuff. It's really about these wind farms that are really popping up from where you guys are in Chicago, clear to here, and they're starting to move right through our ground on our place. We do not do wind energy, but it's a big issue, and it's a big issue to a guy like me who is really a bird guy. I really, birds are what drive me, get me outside, etc. And as most of us know, wind farms are not good for birds. Now, I'm not saying that they won't work or they're not better than oil, because they probably are. But nevertheless, they are another insult to an ecosystem, and that's what the book's about.
So you just brought up politics in your neighborhood and COVID, and I gotta ask you about your governor, Kristi Noem. Motorcycle days in Sturgis, the rallies at Mount Rushmore. What's the state of politics and COVID in South Dakota in general?
Well, it's a wreck. Anybody that's been listening to the news knows it's a wreck. And just imagine if the governor of Illinois was an adolescent woman, okay? Because that's what we have. I mean, Kristi is just like she's in the 9th grade or something. And she doesn't seem to grasp some of these concepts that we're talking about. And that goes right on down to racial inequities and, the whole gamut, as you know. And, the sad thing is that she's not alone. There are a lot of governors that are just like her. She's just a little flashier, So it's not a good situation. It feeds into the issues that we were talking about before. I don't think these people, this type of, the Trump people, if you will, I don't think they know anything about the environment or give a shit. They just don't care.
All right, do you also are they also trying to do some voting rights action in your legislature, or is that not an issue for you guys?
I can't tell you exactly. To be quite honest with you, I don't pay that much attention to what happens. We have a big issue, and that doesn't get much press, and that's our Native American issue. We have, I forget, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 reservations in South Dakota, and they kind of get skipped over. And they did close down the highways going through the reservations during the height of the epidemic. And of course, Kristi got in there and tried to force people through that and everything, which was completely insane. I don't know whether she's never been down there or she just doesn't know poverty when she sees it, or she doesn't give a shit. That's the other possibility. But that's the issue that we have. And it doesn't do much good. A Democrat hasn't been elected in South Dakota since I was a small boy. And, we had some great ones. We had Daschle, and we had, McGovern and all that kind of stuff. So somehow or another, all that positive, progressive thinking has somehow turned inside out, and it's not working for me.
I'm sorry, Michael, I'm going to intrude again, because last week we reported, well, actually it was 2 weeks ago, we reported the most amazing thing is that the boundary waters were burning in Minnesota. Okay, so when you've got something like that happening as close to you as it is, and it's so outrageous to even imagine, how can the boundary waters be on fire? Doesn't that bring people a little further away from the political rift about looking at climate change, just into the reality of, hey, there's no more discussion. It's already here. What do we do now that it's here? Right?
Well, absolutely. And if that's very sobering. I mean, the boundary waters catch on fire is very sobering. So all the fires, I haven't seen the Black Hills for 2 months because of the smoke. Okay. Now we get smoke here. That's not unusual, but it's really, it's unbelievably thick here for a long, long time. Now, that's like the boundary waters. That ain't right. And we need to do something. And when I see this, it's been my life is environmental stuff. And it saddens me because I get the idea that maybe the tipping point is behind us.
I know. Have you read Braiding Sweetgrass, by the way?
Of course. Hasn't
Okay.
everyone?
So I wanted to lift us up there for a second, because Braiding Sweetgrass being read by so many people across the nation is such a good sign that, people are understanding that's written by a botanist, even though she's also introducing us to native culture and many other aspects of life that we should know about. It's uplifting to know so many fellow citizens are reading it.
It's a great story. The trouble is that all those people that are reading that book already have it figured out. It's all those people that don't read that we worry about. And there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Dan, when I was, the first time I visited out there, the second time was when we were bringing the Twin Peaks boys out to college. But the first time I was there, we went and got your falcon out of the pen and you flew your falcon. I wonder if you still have a falcon that you play with each day.
Uh-oh, he's showing it to us.
I'm trying to. Where the hell is he?
Is he inside?
Right there.
Oh, wow.
See, Mayor?
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Now we do. Now we
yeah.
do. It's hard to see him with the light behind him, but oh my gosh.
But the answer is yes. It's my golf. I've already been out this morning with the 2 falcons, and it's the way I commune with nature. I have brothers that play golf, and they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, really. But that's what I do. I've always done that, and the reason I do it is because it does get you into it. It gets you physically into what I'm talking about, and you can't help but look around and look at the other species that we share this planet with and say, oh yeah, they're here too. And that's a big step.
Before we let you go, I wonder if there are any projects, observations, things in your heart, in your mind that you'd like to share with us. And you could go as long as you want.
Well, I've got a long list of those sorts of things. And most of it has to do with this, helping somehow to help people see what we've been talking about. And to me, that's I'm 73 years old, and I don't have a lot of time. I understand that. I welcome that. That's cool. But I'd like to leave the mark of education on as many people as possible. And that's what I do in my life. That's what I do in writing. And that's what I do running the business. And so I'm pretty well focused on that, Michael.
That's terrific.
You're a hell of a guy. And thanks to you, we served one mean buffalo burger at the Heartland, thousands upon thousands of them.
Thousands of them.
And I gotta say, I miss eating buffalo every day.
I do too. I do too.
Well, I'm getting tired of it. I've been eating quite a bit.
Oh, so Dan, thank you for your family's great work that serves so many more people than you'll ever meet. Be assured of that and know that. And we're all in the same boat in terms of what you just said. We're all looking at trying to make sure we leave this place slightly better. Yeah. So good luck to us all on that. And Michael and I will have to go out and talk to you about writing the book that we're trying to finish on the Heartland Cafe, which we need to get a deadline over our heads so that we can finish it.
That is a fantastic idea. The Heartland was such a wonderful thing, and especially to have it in Chicago, the real Heartland. And finish the book, you guys.
Thank you.
We got a lot of stuff written. We got to figure out how to merge it and what tense we're in, and and we have to argue about the edits and get an editor, all that stuff.
But you know what, though? Get a draft first, then argue about the details. That's my. That's
So we
my-
got the draft. That's good.
Dan O'Brien of the Buffalo for the Brokenhearted and many other books. Huge fan of yours and a huge fan of what you're trying to do out there on the beautiful plains.
Go
Bless
Wild
you.
Idea Buffalo.
Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
Right on, brother.
See you next time.
We're back for more live from the Heartland. We want to thank John Coltrane for that beautiful tune, My Favorite Things. And now we've got one of our favorite guests, been on a few times, the guy who has a mouth and will travel, will talk, will spread the word. The one, the only Michael McCarty. How are you, Michael?
I am divine. How to heaven, y'all.
And what brings you to town this time? You used to live in Chicago. Now you're on the West Coast and you're back in Chicago.
I always come this time of year for my birthday, celebrated here with my Chicago folks. And I tell you, I miss the Heartland.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we all do. We all do, Michael. And there's
Well, Michael, as a former member of the Black Panther Party, and Katie pointed out there are a lot of people say they were members, but we know you were a member.
Education lieutenant.
You saw a lot of things come down, and I'm wondering if you would like to share those times and what's going on now, and include in that a film that's been made about you and how that came to be, what it's about, and how we all get to see it.
All right. So one of the things, right now, one of the things that people are talking about is the Black Panther, the Illinois Black Panther movie. And one of the things that people often ask me about in that movie is they ask me about O'Neill. And I am happy because the movie has gone out and it's generated so much interest in the Illinois chapter in general, but Fred in particular. But there's this concern about O'Neill. Some feel that O'Neill is sort of given this like, oh, he had second thoughts. And listen, just for the record, O'Neill, he did to Fred was the highlight of his betrayal. But there are a lot of people that were betrayed by O'Neill, and I might have been one of them. People were sent on missions and what have you that ended up with them being busted. A lot of people got hurt behind that. So people need to know there wasn't an ounce of a gram or microgram of any hesitation with him about the crap that he did.
So just so they were clear for the listeners, you're talking about the film Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yeah, Judas and the Black
which
Messiah.
was up for an Academy Award. There's a lot of stuff in there that really didn't happen, but the overall effect of it, I think, has been good in educating
It's been great.
people.
Yeah.
And
So-
O'Neill is the guy, for people who don't know, and I assume most of our listeners do know, the guy who actually, sedated, gave Chairman Fred drugs so that he was asleep when the police came and assassinated him.
6 times the lethal dose of Seconal. Yeah. So yes, but like you said, that at his when he won the Academy Award for playing Fred, that actor talked about Fred, and millions of people now know about Fred. In bookstores, I know, especially in LA, bookstores, people were lining up. They wanted books about Fred. They wanted books about the party. They wanted to know.
Hey, Maywood High School just named their peace and communications room the Fred Hampton Peace and Communications Room.
And I heard that the first morning I was here. And here's the thing that I really took from that. It was a little subtle thing.
Yeah.
When the reporter was talking about that, he spoke about Fred Hampton had been murdered. Way before, it would not be like that. It would not be that specific. It would be vague or what have you. But he specifically said that Fred Hampton was murdered. And that was, I love it.
Michael, can I share with you a story that I was walking along Monroe Avenue with Michael James early in our partnership when we were just starting the Heartland. And he didn't say anything to me. Michael James didn't, but he all of a sudden he yelled across the street, "Ed Hanrahan, we know you killed Fred and we'll never forget it." And there,
Right on.
and there was Ed Hanrahan on the other side of the street looking like, oh, if you, I know. If you could have seen the way, and all I could do is like, yeah.
Hey,
But,
Michael.
you're right. It's momentous that people are calling it the assassination it was. And it's also momentous for the younger generation to be learning these details.
Amen.
While they are busy, making one of the broadest movements we've seen yet on anti-racism, the Black Lives Matter movement, which, thanks to terrible behavior by the Minnesota police, is worldwide now.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I caught sort of a movie with you in it. I was not expecting to, and I'm on TV, and this is a couple months ago, and I'm like, oh my God, there's my buddy. Who made that movie? How did that come about? Tell us about that. And how do people find it?
Yeah, the movie is called Belonging in the USA, The Story of Michael D. McCarty. It was made by Ariel Nobile. And I'll give you I'll do it quick. I've known Ariel all her life. Her parents were great friends of mine, great friends of mine. When the Trump madness was going on, she wanted to do something to counter that. So she decided to make this series. The first one being me, then a woman from Argentina who had been a victim of the disappearances, and then a woman whose mother had been a victim of the concentration camps for the Japanese. So now I've had a lot of people shoot video of me, and it's been great, but Ariel pulled out all the stops. She had these guys come and follow me around for a day with the little not Zoom cameras, but you know what I'm talking about.
Camera, whatever.
Yeah, the cameras that fly around in the air. She had another drones. So she had another woman come, and she went through every one of my photos. And documented them because they're in there also. And then she interviewed my wife, Valerie, and she asked her this question: what would a movie of Michael's life be like? And Valerie knows me very well, and Valerie can talk. And she did this interview. Ariel sent that interview to a animator who turned that interview into an animated story of my life, paralleling the rest of the documentary. So throughout the documentary, you'll see these animation scenes that pop up here and there. It was, if I had any humility, I would be humbled. I ain't got none. What took them so long?
So how do people see it, and tell us the name of it again?
Belonging in the USA, The Story of Michael D. McCarty. I will send you a link that you can then send out to your subscribers and what have you. It's an amazing piece. It is an absolutely amazing piece. And it captures all of these things about my life, the ups, downs, and the sideways, and how they all led to me being this phenomenal storyteller.
Well, before we get into the storytelling, tell us a little about the prison work that you've been doing, which I'm sure they overlap.
Oh, yes. Since 2014, I've been working with the Arts and Corrections program in California. Artists go into all of the 30-something prisons there are in California, teaching drawing, storytelling, Shakespeare, any kind of art form that they go in. And what's happened, this program started in the 70s, went into the 90s, and then got cut and was resuscitated in 2014. And what they learned is that people who participate in the Arts and Corrections program, while they're in prison, they're less likely to be involved in madness. Once they get out, they're less likely to go back. And I've had several of my students have gotten out, and they're doing well. They're doing very, very well. It's just an amazing. I tell you, there was this one guy when I first started. This guy was in, he had beaten a cop almost to death. He was just a very violent individual. He gets into prison and he meets this guy is white. He meets this black inmate who does beating. Okay, does beating. And he wants to learn. And the guy says, well, I'll arrange it. He hooked it up. The guy started beating. And as he started doing this art form, his whole anger just went, he apologized. He apologized to the cop.
Wow.
He didn't get into any more trouble. And this is the effect of these programs.
You know, we have our friend Lisa Kenner, who used to be a Heartlander and then went on to start an incredibly important West Side charter school called Legacy. She is now working with something called Contextos here in Cook County Jail, which is the same thing. It's inmates writing and sometimes doing artwork. And I mean, nothing could be more important in the most incarcerating nation on the planet than that we figure out how to stop doing that.
Yeah.
And with no good effect. Thank you for doing that work.
I got a letter from one of my students who's been with me from the beginning. And he had a sentence of life plus 1,000 years. His first parole hearing was supposed to happen in 175 years. And he writes in this letter, and at the end of it, he says, because you showed me how to find, develop, and tell my story, I now have a parole hearing next year.
Oh my God, Michael.
You know, Michael, back in the earlier days
God.
of the movement, back in the days of the Black Panther Party, Young Lords, et cetera, there was a lot of attention to prisons.
Yeah.
There were the Jackson brothers, Attica, you know, a lot went on. We don't hear as much about prison organizing or the issue of incarceration in this country. I mean, there's a lot of activists working on it. What do you say about the state of that and what needs to be done?
Well, what needs to be done is that people need to get some damn sense, because one of the things that has to be done, prisons for profit need to be ended, to stop immediately.
Amen.
Because prisons for profit have a quota, usually around 80% occupancy. And at one point, before California stopped this, California had so many inmates, prisons in Mississippi and Tennessee, when they got short on occupancy, they would take prisoners from California. And now if you're a California prisoner and you got relatives and friends on the West Coast, you ain't likely to get any visits anytime soon.
Right.
So they banned prisons for profit in California, I believe, and I think they should be banned everywhere. And one thing that I would recommend them do is learn something about prisons, because we don't know. Those of us who have no connection, we don't know anything. And we make assumptions. Our assumptions are based on what we see in movies and what we see on TV, which is always from a slanted perspective. So find out something. If you know somebody, if you're somebody who likes to write, there are people, men and women in prison, who don't get any letters or contacts. Sending a postcard or something like that can make a difference, a profound difference in person's lives.
Yeah, that's we actually have covered a number of people. Maya Shenwar, who wrote a great book about prisons a couple of years ago. Let's switch, while we still have some time left with you, to your storytelling,
Yes.
which is, you know, a joyful aspect of your life that you have shared for many, many years as well. You know, maybe just a statement about your career as a storyteller, but mostly maybe tell us a story.
Oh yeah.
He thought we'd never ask.
So this is actually keeping with this theme. I tell you a story that came out of one of my classes. So this guy is in prison. He has a sentence of like 25 to life for a victimless, nonviolent crime. He has a public defender, which they call public pretenders, and he ain't doing nothing. So he's trying to get him to get his mind right. He's had enough. He says, "You're fired." the guy starts laughing at him. You can't fire me. You didn't hire me. I was appointed. So this brother, who I was told did not have a 6th grade education, went to the law library, figured it out, fired that sucker, and then he decided he was going to be his own attorney. His wife said, "Have you lost your mind? You're going to mess up." And on the first day, he did every dumb thing he could do. He scowled at the jury. He cussed at the prosecutor. He talked back to the judge. And the judge had the presence of mind to say, "Look, I'm going to give you a break because you have clearly lost your damn mind." and so he realizes he's lost his mind. Now, on this break, he starts going through his files, and he realizes that the prosecutor has been keeping pertinent information from the judge. So when he comes back to the courtroom, he says, "Your Honor, jury, prosecutor, I would like to apologize to you all. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, and by the way, Your Honor, it seems that the prosecutor has kept some information from you." And the judge was like, And he went on. It took him about a year. He had his case thrown out. So this is 2 years ago, November. He's supposed to get out in February, but if he takes the GED class, he can get out sooner. He takes the first 3 parts and kicks butt. The last part is the math, and he's scared. He's so scared, he says, "I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'll just do it next year." I gave out a handout with a quote from Michael Jordan: "You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take." So he said, "I'm going for it." He went, took that test, kicked booty, and got out. And I hope he's doing well. I hope he's doing well. But he sees the time, sure enough.
Gosh, it is so great to both see you and hear you, Michael. All the many years that you would hold forth on the Heartland stage.
Yes.
And make it your office when you were in town. I loved it so much. Yeah. Well, I don't know, Michael, do you have one last question for him or no?
Only, what do you got planned for the rest of your life?
To keep on. I can't wait to get back to prison to do my workshops. I mean, I'm crazy like that. I can't wait to go back to prison, and I want to do more of that. And I'm trying to get more people, other artists, storytellers in particular, to do this around, not only in California, but around the country, because it changes lives in a very, very positive way. It changes lives. We have that power. We got to use it.
Michael McCarty, are you familiar with Sun Magazine out of North Carolina?
No.
Okay,
Oh.
if you're in town for another day or two, I have 2 years of old copies, and they send them to prisoners for free.
Oh, wow.
It's a wonderful, we'll do this offline, but
The Sun.
and I have copies to give you. If you want to come to Michael's house and pick them up, I'll bring them there.
Sounds like a plan. Like I said, we'll figure that out. I'll come maybe Sunday.
That'd
Maybe
be great.
I have to go to a memorial on Sunday, but we'll work it out.
Listen, we're gonna take you out with Stevie Wonder singing "Happy Birthday" to you, the way he sang it to Martin Luther King Jr., because it is your birthday, my brother.
Hey, thank you.
Also, my daughter Koya's birthday, my sister Melody's birthday, my son's friend Carly's birthday. A lot of
Virgos, we rule.
Live long and prosper, my dear.
Nanu, nanu.
Nanu, nanu. Nini, nana, no, no. All right. Well, peace and blessings, my brother.
Thank you. I'll send you the link on your email, and you can share it to your heart's content.
Right on.
Love y'all. All power to the people.
Right on.
Oh, so great to see Michael McCarty. What a wonderful life work he's doing out there.
He's one uplifting guy, I'll tell you that.
Truly, truly. A couple things we're going to make you aware of. The Gethsemane sidewalk sale is happening today for a week. It starts today, Saturday, September 11th, and we'll go for another week. Also, Hot House is kicking off a year-long celebration of education and the life of Paulo Freire. It's a centenary celebration of him. They're including film, music, and reading. It couldn't be more important at this time, at this moment for the people of Brazil. Check out hothouse.net. Very cool stuff. And
We got October 2nd, there's going to be a march in support of women's reproductive rights at the Federal Plaza. Stay tuned for more information on that.
no sports this week, right?
The White Sox are still in first place. We hope their bats come back a little bit. We're just waiting it out. The Bears also play tomorrow. And people should do their own sports too. Run, walk, lift weights, take a swim, live it up, take care of yourself. It's really important.
Do some yoga.
Yeah, yoga too.
We're going out with Twin Peaks singing Our World. For over 25 years, we have brought you live from the Heartland, now called Heartland at Home. Broadcast every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central on Chicago's WLUW 88.7 FM. We stream live from WLUW.org, and we are archived on our channel at youtube.com/heartlandmedia. We are also often cablecast on CAN TV, channel 27. And thanks to our Live from the Heartland team, Luis Mejia, Aaron's down in Veracruz, Lynn Orman Weiss, and now we are also on Spotify podcast. And those are the dump trucks coming down my alley, filling themselves up with dirt from the Heartland site. There will be more noise like that.
Oh,
Do good in the world.
the world needs all the good that we do.
Oh,
Power to the people.